DGE Charles and Lyle, welcome. We have two past Rotary International presidents this morning. Ravi and Barry, welcome as well. To all the incoming officers, welcome this morning. There's a long session ahead of us, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce past Rotary International President Barry to do the introductions.
Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate that. And good morning, everybody. Another wonderful morning. This is number 8 for us, for our president-elects. And I want to remind you that all of you were chosen as leaders for your clubs. You're the ones who your club said, you're going to be it. You're going to be the ones who are going to take our clubs where they need to go into the new dimension. And what you have today is a great fortune to have one of the most outstanding leaders that you could hear from in our Rotary world. Ravi Ravindran is our past president of Rotary. And I got to tell you, I think he's one of the top past presidents we ever had. Any president since him learned from him, okay? So keep that in mind. An outstanding leader, not only in Rotary, but in everything he touches in life. Past president for 15, 16. He led 9,000 Rotarians to the Vatican to have an audience with the Pope. And I had the fortune of being with him on that trip. Fantastic opportunity. In his country, Sri Lanka, he has led so many Rotary projects that they're some of the biggest in the country, from an anti-narcotics association, which fights the narcotics. He worked with UNICEF to get in the Civil War, to get everybody to lay their arms down so we could immunize all the children, because he makes sure that we're going to eradicate polio. And because of that, he led Sri Lanka to be one of the first countries in South Asia to become polio free. Won many awards, obviously had many positions in Rotary. His country conferred on him the title of Jewel of Sri Lanka. So I've got to remember to get him a jewel so he could wear a jewel in symbolic of that. He's an outstanding businessman, known not only in his own country, but many countries, as leading one of the top printing and packaging countries in the world. This is a major company. This isn't some little small fly-by-night place. He has created from scratch an incredible company that he runs. And when he walks around, his employees love him to death and love to talk to him. That tells you the kind of leader that he is. So he's a country leader, he's a Rotary leader, he's one of the best speakers we have in Rotary. If you ever want a good speaker, he'll kill me for this. Call Ravi and he'll do what we need to do. He's a role model for so many of us in the Rotary world. Keep in mind, he always speaks his mind. You know exactly where you stand and what you did right or wrong, which I love about him, the honesty, the integrity. And he wants to make sure things are always done right, and he has no tolerance for a lack of integrity. We are really fortunate, and leaders, you're going to hear some gems from our golden nugget today. So please join me in giving our usual standing ovation to an incredible leader in the Rotary world. Please welcome past president of Rotary International, Ravi Ravindran.
Barry, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Right. Barry, you overdid yourself just now. And, you know, I'm here, friends, District Governor Charles and Lyle and presidents of these clubs. I'm here because of Barry. And he said all these things because he's got to justify why he called me. Otherwise, you've got to have him. You've got to hang him. And I may have been a top president, but there was one higher than me, and that was Barry Racine. So don't take everything he said too seriously. But one of the things I have found in Rotary is the great friendship of Barry and Esther, and I really look forward to meeting up with them all the time, every time. So my friends, each of you on July 1st, 2020, takes over the leadership of your club. You will realize that the destiny of your club will be determined by Am I on video now, Barry? I can't see myself, so.
Yes, I can see you.
You can see me, right. So each of you for 365 days will be the man, the woman, the leader, the chief, the counselor, the guide, the conductor, the manager, the friend, and in fact, everything in your club will revolve around you. You will realize that managing peers will be a hell of a lot more difficult than managing your subordinates in office. And on the job, you will learn many, many management skills that is going to stand you in good stead in the future. Of course, if the president is the conductor, the office bearers are the orchestra. And each one of you is playing a leadership role in your club. That's the way, of course, I have looked at every position. It's not just the president, it's also the directors, the chairs of committees, and everyone else. I say so unhesitatingly because it's a sort of philosophy I followed both in business and in Rotary. I have always felt that what I have received from Rotary, I can never really pay back. I can never really compensate in real life. Let me give you an example. In fact, I mentioned this at the convention in Hamburg. When I was a struggling businessman, just having started my company when I was out of university, I had a great project. After the first 2 years, I was broke. I had no money. Great project, no working capital. And I went from bank to bank. I don't know about your country. In this country, they insist on security, and I didn't have security. Eventually, the 12th or 13th bank I walked into, I saw a friend of mine who was a member of my Rotary club. Oh, incidentally, I was a member of Rotary. I was a member of Rotary. I wasn't a Rotarian. I just went for meetings. When they threatened to sack me, I go again. Then I don't go, and stuff like that. And I asked him, would you introduce me to your credit manager? And he said, yes, I can. So what's it about? And I told him I'm looking for some funds, working capital. I've started this project. He listened to me. Wasn't a great deal of money at that time. And then he started talking cricket. I hope some of you understand cricket because you're from the Caribbean. And I used to play a little cricket. And then I sort of brought the conversation back to where we were. And I said, so what about this money we're looking at? Can you introduce me to your credit manager? And he gave me some documents, some forms, and he said, look, can you sign this? Take it back, put your company seal, bring it back, and it'll be okay. So I said, what do you mean it'll be okay? He says, no, I've sanctioned this. This is within my capacity, within my limits. And I said, you mean you have the ability to sanction this? And I said, yeah, I do. You don't need to go to my credit manager for this. So I took the documents. I said, okay, I'll come back tomorrow. And then I sort of hesitatingly asked him, what about credit security? You didn't ask me anything. He said, oh, come on, go on. You're a member of my Rotary Club. Just go do your project. We'll see. So he gave me that first overdraft that I wanted only because I was a member of his Rotary Club. So you can understand why I'm constantly saying that I am what I am because of what Rotary did to me. Now, I know in retrospect, being the president of my club, as I became president, was the turning point in my life. I had a successful year as a president. And in the course, of course, I learned many things which would stand me in good stead for the rest of my life. In fact, in that 1 year, I learned how true a quote I had heard in my college school rugby days was in real life, that the size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire, the size of your dream, and how you handle disappointment along the way. And this really came home to roost when I was president of my club. Even before I became president, I started working on a fundraiser. That was the time in 1987. Barry was also president of his club in 87, and so was I, and we both became governors on the same year, 91, 92, and then of course went on to serve on the board. So 87 was the time, 86, 87 was the time when the World Cup cricket was being played in India and Pakistan. So there was 1 week where they had no games, because that was the only time when the president of Pakistan and the prime minister of India could get together to host all the teams for cricket. So during that 1 week, I met a sports promoter in Hong Kong who fixed up a double wicket cricket tournament. So that means 2 people from each country. We had 11 or 9 common fielders. They would each play against each other, 1 over from each, and then the next guy bats, and you know the fielders are common. So in sort of 1 or 2 days, we finished the whole tournament. So I had put together a great group. I had Vivian Richards and Marshall from West Indies, Botham Gatting from England, Wasim Akram and Javed Miandad from Pakistan, Steve Waugh and Shane Warne from Australia, Sunil Gavaskar and Kapil Dev from India, Richard Hadley and Crow from New Zealand. You know, they were the best. And I'd already paid out some money. And I never got my club's permission to do all this because I was just coming in as president, was just before I took it. I thought, well, let's see if it works, you know, I'll get all my money back. Just a few months before everything finalized, the New Zealand cricket team was visiting Sri Lanka, and we were in the throes of that civil war at that time. And just outside their hotel, there was a bomb, and the admiral of the Navy was blown up. And the New Zealand team left the shores, and all those people we had signed up refused to come. And I was stuck. I had spent money. I had not got my club's permission, and I was in a hell of a mess. However, I refused to be cowed down. The money was gone, of course. Obviously, I couldn't go and claim it from my club. But I learned something else, that if you don't let these setbacks get you back and you continue to work, things will fall in place. And I went on to set up the Sri Lanka Narcotics Association because that was a need of the day in my country. The narcotics situation was getting bad. We needed the private sector to get involved, and we did get going. I mean, I learned something. If you worked on a project which truly helped the community in which you lived, then it was easy to find participation. It was easy to find funds. And we set up the Sri Lanka Anti-Narcotics Association. And of course, it was independent. Someone else took it over and ran with it. But it's one of those successful projects that we did. And I was president. Now, my experience as a president also taught me, as I said, that money was never a problem. If you had a great project, you marketed it professionally, and the money came, and it became an experience which became very useful even in my business career and in my Rotary career later on. I mean, when the tsunami hit us, we decided to build 25 new schools. We needed something like $12 million. And you know, we raised it in 10 months, the entire money. What they want is they're looking for someone with integrity, they're looking for transparency, they're looking for a great project. When the COVID, which is going on right now, even before the government got going, we started working on it. And we raised $1 million in 10 days to set up the most advanced lab in the country, which will serve us in good stead long after the COVID, and also protect all the people working there because it's completely automated. But of course, as a leader, you will find many challenges. Barry referred to stopping the civil war. You know, we had a civil war going on, and to get polio going, we needed to do national immunization days. So it was necessary to stop the war. Now, the government couldn't do it, but UNICEF and Rotary working together persuaded the militants to cease fire for 2 days to allow us to do our immunization, and they obliged. Of course, the government reciprocated, and we had our ceasefire. So we had a relationship with even the militants. But I have to tell you, it's not always like that. When we were building schools, at least 5 or 6 of the schools was in the area which was controlled by these militants. So we got to a situation, and because we were transparent, every school had the cost, the money you spend, the checks you wrote out, everything comes up on the website. The funders knew exactly what was being spent, what was the progress made, photographs were coming up. So everyone knew what it was costing, what was the status of it, how many children were going into each school, and so on. So when I was at a meeting, 3 of the contractors stood up and they said, you are advertising all your costs, and now we have been told by these people who control this area that 10% of all project costs must go to them. And they said this is their legitimate demand. That's the only way they raise money. All business done there, 10% goes to them. We try to tell them that, this is philanthropy, this is charity. We raise money from all over the world. We can't tell them we paid a commission to some militants. But they said that's the only way to do it. If you can't, then it can't be done. So we went back to our sponsors and we asked them, would you allow us to pay 10% of this project cost to these people, because otherwise they won't let us build these schools. The sponsors came back, and there were different sponsors for each one of those schools. They came back, they all said, yes, we've heard about it, it's okay, go ahead. We'll enhance the project cost by another 10%. Then I thought, why should we give these guys money when we are trying to do some good for children in the place? And we called the contractors back, and I persuaded my committee. I said, don't give money, we'll see. And we'll pull out. On principle, we shouldn't do this. So we called them back and we said, we won't give you this money. I'm sorry, that's it. A few days later, I had a call on my direct line. And as I picked it up, they said, hello, Mr. Ravindran. I said, yes. They said, well, I understand. So the voice said, I understand that you are refusing to give legitimate money due to us. And I said, I'm not doing anything. It's the committee. I mean, you got to talk to them. The guy said, no, but you're the chair of this committee and we know you're behind this. I said, no, I'm not. It's a committee decision. Then they said, and I said, okay, if you insist on the money, we are withdrawing from the project. And they said, no, you can't do that. We won't let you do that. This is good for our children, good for our place. We want you to build it. But this is our legitimate request. So I said, I'm sorry, it won't work. And then he told me, he said, we know you travel a lot. You must understand we can get you anywhere. Now, I'm not a fool. And I knew what he meant by saying they can get me anywhere. And you're talking to the most feared terrorist organization at that time. So I was scared. I mean, I was scared witless. But I said, look, I was just coming in as a trustee of the Rotary Foundation. And I said, listen, I represent one of the most powerful service organizations in the world. If you touch a hair on my head, your funding will probably get cut off in every place where Rotary operates. It's up to you. And I put the phone down. I don't think Rotary Foundation would have cared a damn if anything happened to me, but it was a bluff I called, and it worked, because after that they left us severely alone. So sometimes you got to do this. And I never even told my wife at that time. Subsequently, we got to know. But these are the troubles that we faced when you're doing leadership positions in Rotary. But all this pales into insignificance when you compare it to the challenges the world faces today. For business leaders, the coronavirus pandemic has been a baptism in crisis management, an exercise in making gut-wrenching choices, staying calm, projecting confidence, and providing comfort as a leader. Deep down, however, we all know that the real leadership test is yet to come. Because in addition to the staggering human toll, this crisis has upended everything we thought we knew about finance, and the global economy has exposed glaring operational weaknesses across most businesses. I mean, it has disrupted modern society on a scale that today's generation has never seen. The coronavirus is not only a health crisis of immense proportions, it's also an imminent restructuring of the global economic order. And at some point, millions of rattled employees, my company and other companies, will return to work and begin adapting to the new realities of temperature checks, plexiglass shields, disposable dispads, staggered shifts and devices that bust when people get too close and so on. And I'm telling you all this not to depress you, but to tell you we need to readjust and innovate to these new surroundings. You see, the human spirit is formed, matured, and strengthened through the adversities of life. And I'm sure so will Rotaries. They ring true today, but if anything, understate the reality the world is currently facing. Being president of your club was always going to be a challenge. It's a responsibility. It may give you a few gray hairs, may give you some sleepless nights, just that you have a different type of challenge today. But remember, it's one which is the same for every single club president across the world. They're all facing the same thing. It's not a situation where you have a typhoon or I have a tsunami. Everyone faces the same problem, so you're on even keel. Or look at it another way. Even if you paid thousands of dollars for a management training course at Harvard Business School, I think right now the going rate is $45,000 for a 3-month course. They can give you lots of case studies to work on, but you could never buy another chance like this to learn to perform, to show courage, to lead from the trenches in a scenario like this. So just imagine you're going to Harvard and you're learning things right now. So remember that as the ripple of COVID-19 careens around the globe, it's forcing humankind to innovate and change the way we work and live. The upside of where we find ourselves right now is that individuals, corporations, clubs, organizations will be more resilient in a post-COVID-19 world. And as Holger Knap's theme denotes, the current crisis even gives you some excellent new opportunities. Understand that enterprise owners at every level, from the shopkeeper to the departmental store CEO, from the machine shop owner to the head of an industrial conglomerate, they're all looking for ways to operate through the immediate crisis, all while preparing for a potentially much longer period of heightened uncertainty regarding demand and supply, and a lasting need to maintain enhanced hygiene and physical distancing. In fact, in my country, we have a very interesting Rotary project going. The project is that we realize, given the task ahead for a behavioral change to cope with what you would call the new norm, our project is nationwide as soon as the lockdown is lifted. It's called Stop the Spread. The project entails creating the awareness of the steps that shopkeepers, business owners need to take to make their establishments safe both for themselves and their customers. The project will work closely with the Standards Bureau, the bodies, and other authorities to set up the protocol that is necessary for industries, for business premises, for educational institutions, for supermarkets to function safely. The idea is to have every establishment to be certified to be COVID managed. But let this COVID not consume you. Take courage from your biggest strength, which is your membership. Try to understand that the talent that each member brings to bear is valuable. Do an inventory of your club and the strength and the weakness of each member, for it is through their combined strength of the members of your Rotary clubs is your strength going to be multiplied. I mean, sure, there is no single yardstick by which each member can be measured. But if you can find the key to unlock the skill sets each one of them possesses, draw out the inherent passion for service that lies in the heart of every individual in your club, you are the monarch. The reason I say that is that each one has a different interest. It's because I myself find that I can't go and work in this, in these medical camps or go and build houses with my bare hands and so on, or others can. I think my forte is the ability to organize, to manage, to demand and demonstrate transparency, accountability to try and raise funds. So I tend to volunteer to manage large projects, be it running the polio campaign or building schools or orchestrating the COVID response. But I'm not one of those hands-on guys, but you need both lots to do this. So remember, our time is limited. You have just 365 days. Therefore, we must seek maximum results for our efforts. We must believe that we are one of those who have been truly blessed, who have been given this opportunity to reciprocate in a small way the much that we have derived and shall derive from this organization. You know, many years ago, when I just finished being president, I wasn't even a governor, I had the great opportunity of meeting Mother Teresa in Calcutta. So there I was in her room, and I could, every time I was speaking to her, very modest apartment, there was a door behind me which was banging. And every time the door banged, my eyes went towards that. And she said, you know, that's my washroom. It was a very modest looking washroom. And then she said, to serve the poor, you have to be like the poor. And I met at that time a person who subsequently expanded on that. He had gone to see Mother Teresa not in India, in some other place where she was cleaning the toilets, and he found her cleaning the toilet. And in fact, Mother Teresa says, if you ask her, what was your job? She says, my job is cleaning toilets. And as he walked up to her, she looked up and said, you come to work for me? Gave him the broom, gave him the mop, and said, now clean up this place. When you finish, come and see me. And she went off. So here was this guy wearing a lounge suit. He had to take off his suit, take off his tie, and he cleaned up those 3 or 4 toilets in the hospital. Went back to see Mother Teresa. And she looked up from the table and said, you're finished? You want another job? And this man said, Mother, I really came because I'm the president of this airline. I thought I'll personally come and give you this ticket for your flight tomorrow. And she said, oh, no, I'm sorry. And he said, no, it's all right. But you see, what he told people was that it doesn't matter. I was not hurt. I didn't feel bad that she asked me to do this menial job, because in those 20 minutes, I became Mother Teresa. And that's the opportunity that you have. You can become a Mother Teresa. You can become a Martin Luther King. You can become a Mahatma Gandhi for 20 minutes, 20 days, or for this whole year when you are president. And that's what you need to tell your members. You see, we Rotarians must understand that if the misery and exploitation around us grow, it was not because God ordained it, but it was because we chose to be blind. Please know that with creative and impassioned leadership that each of you can provide, you can change a community's uncertainty to resolve. You can change a community's apprehension into determination. You can change a community's fear into hope. And you can change a community's who feels hopeless in a situation like this into something a little more promising and make their dreams come to reality. So I wish you every success as you take advantage of these new opportunities the world has given you, as Rotary is now giving you. Thank you, and have fun.
Thank you very much, past Rotary International President Ravi. You took us through quite a bit here with your beginnings in Rotary, reminding us that the coronavirus is a baptism of fire, and we need to lead from the trenches. I like what you did without money in getting work done. I think we can all learn from that, and we need to find courage in our membership. So thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning, or this afternoon as it may be home by you. But I like the part you brought up with cricket, because in the Caribbean, with the West Indies team, we all revel in the cricket, and when we all are winning at the cricket, this is the West Indies. And likewise, this segues into the introduction of the guest speaker today. In the Caribbean, when any one of the runners from either Jamaica, Bahamas, Trinidad, Barbados, wherever we are, wins a gold medal, we all cheer and we all find a collective win for each and every island and find pride in it. When I stood in Toronto and Barry Rasdin was made International Rotary International president for the year 2018-2019, I was filled with the same pride that we feel when one of our athletes win a gold medal at international events. Barry was named a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives in the Bahamas and retired as president of the Doctors Hospital Health System in Nassau, Bahamas, where he remains a director. He is currently the chairman of the Volunteers Bahamas, a national program to create a culture of volunteerism in that country. Barry is the founder of Haiti National Water Sanitation and Hygiene Strategy, better known as HandWash. It is a collaborative program to bring potable water and satisfactory sanitation to all citizens of Haiti. He remains a member of the HandWash Steering Committee and will assume the role of chairman of the US-based HandWash Charitable Foundation. In 2010, Barry coordinated the Rotary disaster relief effort in Haiti following the disastrous earthquake. Rotary raised $6.5 million, and Barry personally supervised the completion of 105 relief development projects throughout Haiti. He received the Service Above Self Award from Rotary International and the National Award of Health Heroes by the Bahamas Ministry of Health and PAHO. In 2018, he was identified by the government as an officer of the Order of Distinction of the Bahamas. I fondly remember one of Barry's lectures several years ago, and I'm sure he's going to be as lively as he was then tonight. He's married to Esther, and without further ado, past Rotary International President, Barry Racine. Please give him a warm, thunderous standing ovation.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Really appreciate that very kind introduction. And I'll follow up your thank you with Ravi. Thank you for so many golden nuggets. We have a whole wealth full and a chest full now, which is great. Now, my job today is to talk a little about some of the things you may not know about Rotary, whether they're new or they've been hidden or you just haven't noticed or you haven't gone on Rotary.org and looked. So I'm going to give you some thoughts about what you could do as a club that you may not have thought about. First of all, I want to talk about flexibility. I want to make sure everybody understands that Rotary International wants clubs to understand that there is a lot of flexibility in what we do and how we do it. We don't have to be stuck in the same old traditions we've always done. Each club should kind of stand back and look, what are we doing as a club? And what could we do different that would be more relevant to today's world and to our members? That's really what's important. There are new models for clubs. We don't all have to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and that's it. Now we have all kind of other ways to do it. We have passport clubs where individuals can not be a member of a particular club, but carry a passport from club to club and do service. Because the bottom line, it's about doing good in the world. That's what we have to focus on. We want to put together an organization where individuals can go online and join Rotary International. Do we need to be a club? And you're going to see a model come out with that next year. We're going to model that in Houston so that we can test the market and see if that's going to work. Satellite clubs are a great way to get young professionals involved in Rotary. You can start a satellite with only 8 members and they can meet right after work, no meal, therefore it's less expensive, and it works. Now, you have to adjust the thinking based on, that was before the pandemic. And a lot of these thoughts are before the pandemic. So how do we now adjust for the pandemic and the fact that we are going to meet online? We have one satellite club in our district, Rotary After Dark, which happens to be from the Rotary Club of East Nassau. And already you could see that they are growing and they're performing, and that's great. I would ask you all to think about, if you're meeting at lunch, breakfast, or dinner, if you had a after hours meeting, could you encourage others to meet? At first, they'll meet online, but at some point, we'll get to some in-person meetings. And we'll talk more about the pandemic later. So keep in mind flexibility, very important. I want to talk a little about Rotaract. By now, you should all know that Rotaract has been elevated to be a member of Rotary International, just like a Rotary Club. So Rotaract clubs and Rotary clubs are now almost at equal level. There's a lot to happen between now and going forward over the next year or two to bring them to complete equality. But basically, a Rotaract club is just a young version of a Rotary club. And we got to keep that in mind. It's for the young professionals, both in university and working. And we've removed, the board of directors removed the age limit starting next year, so that Rotaract clubs have that ability to set their own upper limit. Now, we don't expect them to set 60 as an upper limit, so I don't want any 50-year-olds thinking they should be moving to Rotaract. That's not the idea. The idea here is let the young professionals use with their own dynamism and their own ideas, and less costly and less often meetings, but doing good service. Let them continue doing that, and let's not be arbitrary about when they have to stop. What's important is whenever they stop Rotaract, they join a Rotary club. That's what's important. We need to capture our Rotaractors to stay in the organization for the long term. And we have to, with Rotaract, we have to be thinking about mentoring. We, as those who have the experience over much time, we should be mentoring our young professionals. On the other hand, remember, this is a two-way street. Some of our young professionals know our digital world better than we do, and we need to listen to them. So there's a great symbiotic relationship between our Rotaract and Rotary. We need to work together. If you, as a Rotary club, have a Rotaract club, then you should make sure there's always a Rotarian at Rotaract and always a Rotaract at Rotary club. Now, we're online, so it's a whole lot easier right now, but that's how we develop the relationship so the Rotaractors want to stay with us. That's absolutely, and there's a lot going forward. The trustees are going to have to look at how do Rotaract clubs do global grants on their own. Well, that means Rotaract clubs need to get their grant training and have their grant seminars so they can be equal in knowledge to a Rotary club. So again, it's a two-way street so that we can do all of that. And keep in mind, it was now put into the job description of the district governor that they should also be working with Rotaract clubs. So very specific. We're all in this together. And I want to congratulate 7020 and 7030 for what you have all done with Rotaract. As I traveled around last year, you are one of the stronger two districts in the world when it comes to Rotaract clubs. And I congratulate you. Keep doing it. But make sure they want to join a Rotary club later. So Rotaract has evolved, has changed. Let's keep that excitement going, and let's keep Rotaractors really wanting to stay with Rotary for the rest of their life. So other things that have changed. The environment, interesting topic. With the pandemic and the world coming to a stop, you can now see photographs of highly polluted cities where you can see the city and the backdrop is a blue sky. You couldn't have seen that for the last 10, 20 years because we've stopped everything from flying to driving to manufacturing. We have improved our environment. We have reduced pollution. Some say 45% reduction in carbon monoxide levels. That's incredible, okay? So we need to learn from that and ask ourselves, what do we do going forward? Because eventually we're going to go back to doing all those things that caused the pollution. But hopefully people a lot brighter than me can figure out, what do we do a little different so that we can keep our environment strong? Now the trustees, I have to tell you, are looking at how does the trustees look at the environment in a different light? And I'm sure they're going to come out with a decision sometime over the next year as to how you can get grants for the environment in a different fashion than in the past. We've done them in the past, but you'll see that change. So that's going to happen. Other changes, the International Assembly has been training district governors in California for some 20 years. Anaheim, San Diego, that's moving to Orlando next February. On the other hand, will they be able to actually meet in person in February? That's an unknown. So we've got to start looking now, if that can't happen, how do we train our governors at the Assembly in a virtual environment? So that's happening. The Rotary Board 2 years ago created a committee called Shaping Rotary's Future. This committee was asked to look at the Rotary organization through the lens of today, not from where we've come and tweak it, but if we were to start Rotary International today, what would it look like? And that committee has made some very interesting recommendations and hope to make a final recommendation to the board in October. So it's a whole different way of looking at it. And you know, when you bring major change, many of our traditionalists don't like major change. So it's got to be well understood as to the benefits that it can bring in regions around the world, because we really similar things, and yet different regions have different needs. We need to meet the different needs in the different regions. So that committee is looking at that. So you can be assured that your organization is working hard to look forward. And I'll talk a little more about that in a moment. You've heard about Toastmasters International and the contract, the agreement that we have with Toastmasters for them to use their expertise in leadership. And they have some 60 modules that they train individuals in leadership. They're known for public speaking, but actually they do a lot of other leadership things as well. And I'd like to credit Past President Ravi for bringing this forward and saying, hey, we should do this. And we actually were able to do it. And this month, we have received the first 2 or 3 modules from Toastmasters in Rotary language. And the staff is right now reviewing them. And we want to release those by the end of the month. And we want to release them to Rotaract, because Rotaract's going to be really honest with us and say, yeah, this works, that doesn't work. And so we could refine it and then have a model we could send out to Rotary clubs around the world to help all of our leaders to develop our leadership skills. Because I think that's one thing we as clubs need to do, is develop our members, put programs in place where every Rotarian has an opportunity to have self-development and leadership development. That, I believe, is one of our responsibilities. Now, you would already know from District Governor-elect Charles and Lyle that we have a new strategic plan. So I'm not going to go into that in depth. Just remember, there's 4 basic elements. We want to increase our impact. And you're asking yourself, as president, and I'm in my house and I can't do service projects, how am I going to increase my impact? Well, that's why you're the leader, because you're going to figure out how to do that. And Ravi has told you some of the secrets of that leadership. You also want to expand our reach. Again, a challenge, but we're never too much for a challenge. We love a challenge. We want to enhance participant engagement. So important that we make sure we engage all of our members. You know, there's a real concern that come August, when we get the final numbers for the year, our membership is going to drop. If our membership drops, our dues drop. If our membership drops, our foundation giving drops. We can do less than we could in the past. As the leaders, we can't afford that. As our leaders, it's up to you to ensure that we continue that engagement with Rotarians in our clubs. So they want to stay and they want to keep doing it, and they want to figure out new ways to do it. I don't know what my club is going to do. Our major fundraiser is a golf tournament, and we could bring in $125,000 a year. We had to cancel it. So we have to find an alternative. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet, but we will find one, because that's what we do as Rotarians. And the 4th element is to increase our ability to adapt. Now, good timing for that one, because if we don't adapt, we're dead. We have to adapt to a whole new norm and a whole new world. And DGE Charles talked about the new norm. That was a couple nights ago, I guess. I lose track of time. But that excellent ideas on what this new norm is, but we need to meet it. So keep in mind our strategic plan. We still have to be focused as clubs to work with the bigger organization. We've also agreed, the trustees have agreed to add another peace center, the Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda, so that we'll have a peace center in Africa. Now, timing on that is going to be a question, because with all the changes, how does that affect our peace centers and fellows being able to travel to a peace center? So that's still a question mark, but that will eventually be opened as a new peace center. Another thing that I find a lot of Rotarians don't know about is our global rewards. And I recommend you go take a look at that. You could get discounts in so many places, and all of your companies could add discounts to that. There's a possibility the board may cut that out in the next year or so, but now's an opportunity to save some funds. And if you don't know, when you go to Amazon, and I know all of us use Amazon.com because it's less expensive than a lot of our countries. I use Amazon.com, but I go in as smile.amazon. If you use Smile Amazon, you can then choose your charity of choice, and a percentage of everything you buy goes to your charity of choice, which of course is the Rotary Foundation. So choose the Rotary Foundation, and then a percentage of everything goes to the foundation. You're making donations when you buy things for your house or for gifts or whatever. I mean, all my kids are away, all their gifts come from Amazon. So every time I give them a gift, I'm giving the Rotary Foundation a gift. The polio. Keep in mind that polio eradication is still our #1 priority. Do not lose sight of that. Yes, we're going to have a little pause in what we do. I had the great benefit of talking to the Rotarians in Pakistan 2 weeks ago, and I am encouraging them to stay focused. But let me tell you, they are enthused, they're excited, they can't wait to get back so that they can ensure that the health workers are going house to house, bus stations, borders, to make sure that we immunize all the kids for polio. But yes, there's going to be a pause here because COVID-19 is major for us. I'd also want to talk a little about where we are today with things that I couldn't talk about in February because they didn't exist. Things have changed so much, as all of us know. So right now, our board of directors of Rotary International, the trustees of the Rotary Foundation are meeting online. First time ever happened. The board met, they had their weekly meeting, and their meeting, they had a little mix up the first day, but then 3 hours a day for 4 days. The trustees came together, and we've kind of done a couple hours here and a couple hours there. In credit to Chairman-elect of the trustees, Ravi, he's having a committee of the board of the trustees meet every single Friday so that we could get ready for next year. And I recommend that to all of you. Start thinking now you can meet so easily. Meet with your board on a regular basis. Meet weekly. Plan your year. What are you going to do? Especially now, because we have to come up with different things to do. So start that process so that when July 1st comes, you're ready to run. You're ready to do the things differently and yet successfully and enthusiastically. So that'll happen. Rotary International has also said that there will be no travel for in-person meetings for the board of directors or for Rotary International committees between now and December 31st. For the rest of the year, they're not sure yet. We're going to wait and see what happens. And Ravi as chair-elect, working with Holger as our president-elect, work closely together. So Ravi wants to align what the trustees do, so the trustees will do the same thing with committees and trustee meetings. The board also appointed a pandemic task force, and they've been given until October to make a final report to the board of directors on what we do different based on today's norm. And that doesn't mean just looking at district conferences and institutes and president-elect training and governor training, the things we already do, but looking about what we could do in this new environment. I mean, I asked myself, why didn't we meet online last year in between meetings so that we could have accomplished a lot more when we get to the meetings? We could have been a lot more efficient. Now we're forced into it, we will get more efficient. Also keep in mind that there will be a Rotary International Convention, and you must wear your Aloha Hawaiian shirt. Mark will be most upset if we don't all wear our Hawaiian shirts, so we got to wear those. However, it will be virtual. It will be online, starts June 20, and we will have breakout sessions. And by the way, we're going to have a breakout on Rotaract, which I'll be happy to be a part of, along with Director David Stovall, so we can talk about Rotaract with Rotaractors. So make sure you sign up. And by the way, guess what? It's free. A Rotary International Convention is free. And you can meet and see what's happening internationally around the world. I think that's fabulous. And hopefully we'll get all 1.2 million people online. That'll be interesting. We're also definitely having a virtual district conference. I believe that starts June 11th. So our district 7020, I haven't heard, but I believe 7030 is also doing a virtual conference. So we're going to have our district conferences, and we're going to get them so that they're efficient, they're effective, and you're going to get the latest information in the Rotary world. And before I open up to questions, I just want to tell you a little about what the Rotary Foundation is doing. And I'm not a trustee yet, so I could brag about the foundation now. After July 1st, I can't brag. But let me tell you, they responded so quickly, immediately moving $1 million into the disaster fund so that clubs around the world and districts could get some $25,000 each district to do projects for COVID-19. We've had since then 306 applications for a COVID-19 project. We've awarded 193 projects. Imagine that. That's just out of the COVID-19 disaster fund, 193 projects worth $4.7 million. Rotary has asked districts around the world to give some of their district designated funds into the disaster fund. And from that and other cash, they received another $1.5 million to help with COVID-19. Now, when you add that to the global grants that have been approved just for COVID-19 projects, already, and we're only 2 months into this, already the trustees have awarded $17 million in grants for COVID-19 projects around the world. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. They work quickly, they respond quickly, and we're getting things done. We're reaching districts and clubs that need help for their communities. And a lot of the question, well, what are they doing? Well, everything. They're providing PPE equipment, they're making masks, they're supporting local economy by making masks locally, they're buying them, they're providing equipment for labs so that we can expand our ability to do the number of tests we need. And we are providing some food security. Right here in Nassau, I felt so proud yesterday to see my fellow Rotarians in my island out there working with a lot of the churches and getting food to the people who need it. In Abaco, we got a person there who we were able to provide interesting because we have online here with us today our president-elect of the Rotary Club of Abaco, but he's only got a handful of members left on the island, and yet he's with us today getting ready for next year. And we're helping him by providing funds to a 501c3 in Florida so that a person in there who has a credit card, a US credit card, can raise funds for dollars. And between Rotary and other organizations, we've already sent them $100,000 to help with food security just on his island. I mean, that's what Rotary does. I don't know about you, but I am so proud to be a Rotarian, because when you see what we do around the world and how we transition quickly into the new needs and the new norms, and there's no other organization, in my opinion, that can do or does what we do. And it's because of you. I can't emphasize enough, it's the Rotary Club presidents who motivate their clubs to be leaders in their communities. You're the ones who are making our world a better place. So before I get too carried away, and I do tend to get a little passionate about Rotary when I talk, but I'd love an opportunity to answer any questions you might have. And I'll throw that open to whoever's going to ask me those questions. Thank you.
Yes, Barry, this one comes from Robert. He wants to know, Rotary being full members of RI, what is the present funding structure regarding fees and district and RI fees, contributions to the Rotary Foundation, etc. And what is the expectation regarding sponsor clubs? Are they still in the same position they were before, as funding quite a few of the Rotarac's projects?
I love the way we ask these very long questions that are actually 4 or 5 questions all in one. I'll try to remember each of them. For the dues, the board of directors has approved a dues structure for Rotaract, but it doesn't take effect until, I believe, July 1st, 22. And it might be 21, but I think it's 22. And the structure will be that a community-based Rotaract club pays $8 per member per year, and a university-based will pay $5 per member per year. So that will start to develop them. As far as the grants process and donations to the trustees, yes, they need to be making donations to our Rotary Foundation, no question. But what we have to do is keep in mind that they are the young professionals, either in school or new in their careers. They may not do as much, but over time, we want them to have equal access. And so they're gonna have to also make some donations to the Rotary Foundation. If we want them to be truly on the same plateau, then they need to think about every Rotarian, every Rotaractor, every year, and those kind of things. So they are a part of our organization in toto. I think I answered all of that.
Yes, next question is from, let me just get it here. It's from Giselle. And Giselle wants to know a little more about the passport clubs.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about them. I've met a few people. There's not a lot of them, but basically they get together. They say they don't have time to go to this lunch club or that breakfast club, but they could go to different clubs. And so they come together as a group of individuals. They have what they call a passport, literally. And when they go to any Rotary club, they get that club to stamp their passport or sign their passport to show that they are going to Rotary meetings. More importantly, they're finding out what service projects are in their area so they can visit a service project. Because let's face it, the core of what we do is really ensuring that we do service and make our world a better place. And we can do that anywhere. We don't have to just do our club service. We can do another club service. So they kind of look at it as a global membership where they can go from club to club.
Okay, the other question comes with, and I believe you answered this, from Aniska. How can Rotaract clubs gain access to grants?
Yeah, well, first of all, right now they have to go through their Rotary club. Right now, a Rotary club can bring in a Rotaract club to partner with them on a global grant. That can be done today. They don't have to wait. To do it on their own without a Rotary club, the trustees are still debating how to do that and what requirements to make. Because again, they're gonna have to go through to grant seminars, and they're gonna have to get certified as a club that they're able to handle a global grant. So that's gonna take some time for all Rotaract clubs that want to be able to get that done. But today, you want to do a global grant? Great, make sure you got a good relationship with your Rotary club, and then do it together. The more we do together, the more we get done.
One of the other queries, Barry, was with RI being locked down until the 31st of December for all its officers. Does this include all the DGs, and therefore all DG visits will be confined to just virtual visits?
The way Rotary made that decision was they can only decide definitely for Rotary National Board trustees, RI committees, trustee committees. And then they recommend to district governors and to directors that they consider only virtual meetings between now and then. So if a governor really wants to, they could. It's not recommended. But we're trying not to take the decision-making away, because some areas of the world might be able to do it. Others are not able to do it. So we really have to leave it up to the region to decide what is the healthiest and the safest way to do that. And you know, in my mind, I think of my own club, in the room we're in, there's no way we could keep 6 feet apart and have a meeting. So as long as we're doing social distancing, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of clubs to come together in person. So I think, in my personal opinion, we certainly need to think that we should do that virtually between now and December 31st, and then make a decision later for the rest of the year. Keep in mind that President-elect Holger has already eliminated the president representative program for next year, for the entire Rotary year. So there'll be no president reps going to any district conference based using Rotary dollars, if you will. If a district can do it and they want somebody, they can invite them themselves, but Rotary isn't doing it. So we're thinking out for that whole 12 months, and that's president's reps council. So I think we're going to see this go on longer than we would wish.
Just a comment here from Past District Governor Harish. The District 6400 Passport Club is quite a vibrant one. Check them out online for more information. So if you missed that, that's one of the resources that you can use. One of the other questions here is, what would you recommend the district do with regards to district funds for 2022?
2022.
I think that's probably a misprint, but yes, that's the question.
You know, I think we got to get down to each district has to look at their situation and what it costs. If the governor isn't traveling at all and can make that decision for the whole time, then they need to look at the budget and see what dues are needed and what the current expenditures are. I think every governor-elect is going to have to stand back and ask themselves that question before those dues goes out. That's a tough question to answer. RI has to face that same question. RI a little different in that all of our staff expenses continue to go on. Nobody is leaving. And if our membership drops, then we have a financial challenge. So we still going to need dues for Rotary International. Districts a little different because they don't have a lot of staff. Some districts do, mind you. Some districts have an executive director, and they still have to pay the executive director. So again, the districts need to step back, and I would recommend that each governor-elect meet with their financial team and ask, what should we do next year?
Okay, and Robin, wasn't sure what you had said about the new clubs in Houston. If you could just repeat that a bit for him for clarification.
Yes, we have been working on this for a few years, but we have come up with a model where an individual can go on to Rotary.org and join Rotary International. They don't join a club, they just join Rotary International. So it's not about being a member of a club, it's about being a member of Rotary, paying your dues, and then doing service wherever you want to do service. We're going to take that to Houston, and there's 2 other places, so we can test in different cultures. And I think Taiwan might be one, where we can actually run the model just in that region to see if it works and what kind of reaction we get. It's an experiment. What we talk about is that young professionals don't want to come to breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetings. Is this a way we can get younger people or very busy people to be a part of Rotary, help us do service, and not have to be a member of a club? And yeah, the traditionalists don't like this at all because we come from a traditional setting of meeting in person. But it's a new world we live in. This is a great time to test it out, because I think a lot of us are going to, even when we get back to some kind of old normal in a couple of years, you're going to see clubs keep this as part of their routine and one of the tools they use in the future, even though we can meet in person. So a lot of this is going to affect what we do going forward.
Okay, Barry, I think we have time for 2 more questions. This one I think is quite an interesting one. The RI database recognizes Rotaract clubs, but not individual Rotaractors who contribute to the foundation. How will this and when will this integration of the database be updated?
Yep. Good question, because that's one of my frustrations. While I was president, I had requested that a complete overhaul of the database take place. Basically, I'd like to get rid of it and start with a new one that can be much better than what we have today. They made an adjustment for us so that the Rotaract president could put all the members of Rotaract on the database, but they don't have equal access like a Rotarian does. So we have what we call an enterprise list of many things that Rotary International needs to change. We managed to move it up to the top of that list. And as soon as they finish the current project, which I think is like $8 million to change some of the accounting systems, which are antiquated, when that's finished, then they're supposed to develop a new database. When they get to that, whenever that is, I can't promise times, but when they get to that, a Rotaractor will have the same access as a Rotarian. Again, the plan is that over time, everything changes so that Rotaract and Rotary have equal to everything.
Okay, and the final question is, can you share what financial responsibilities Rotary clubs have towards Rotaract clubs?
Rotary Club up to now have started Rotaract clubs. They created them, and they need to take responsibility to help that club in any way they can. Mentoring, advising, counseling, making sure there's always a representative at their club. It's not so much of taking responsibility for the financial, but helping them to develop their financial stability. So they know what to do and what they can do and how to do fundraising and how to collect dues and how to maintain their club on a financial level. We need to be the advisors, the counselors, the mentors to Rotaract clubs. That being said, a lot of clubs have been doing, and it's been recommended by Rotary, that when a Rotaractor wants to transition into a Rotary club, then maybe the Rotary club could give them a break for the first year or 2 or 3 of dues. So they help them with that transition, the financial transition for them, and help encourage them to come to Rotary clubs. So it's about helping them with all aspects, including financial aspects.
Right, well, past Rotary International President Barry, I think that's most of the questions. And I thank you for being here. I would just invite District Governor-elect Charles to please say a few words in closing.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Oh my goodness, what a fantastic morning. What a fantastic morning to know that we were blessed to have information, I think, from 2 of our most senior Rotarians in Rotary. Thank you so much, Barry, for the knowledge. More importantly, it's not just only the information, but the way you conveyed it. And I think all of us understand, one, the sincerity of what Rotary is expecting of us, and more importantly, how Rotary is trying to be adaptive, is trying to be unique in these situations for us to be successful. So thank you so much. Robbie, I think past Rotary International President Robbie may have left us, but he used one of my favorite quotes coming from Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the size of our success is going to be measured by the strength of our desires. How much do you really, really, really want it? And the size of your dreams, where do you think it can go? I mean, where do you see your clubs under your leadership? Where can it actually go during this year? And how are you going to deal with adversity, distractions, and challenges that will come, to guarantee, but at least you know. So we look forward to a great year. Thank you for joining us this Saturday. We look forward to an even more exciting time on Tuesday. We're counting it down, but we're also counting it up. Look forward to seeing you all at our next session. Good morning.
And that brings us to the end. Thank you very much, Rotarians in District 7020 and 7030 for joining us. Thanks very much to both RI past presidents, Ravi and Barry. Thank you very much.